Yeah, I mean, just to recap all of the different strands across the Chinese tech space, right? And I think it's important to, when you take a step back, and I'm going to go through the details here, you take a step back, there are indications of perhaps less competition in some areas and indication of more competition in others, right? So JD.com and Meituan and that sort of back and forth that they have on social media. Separately, though, and I think to indicate the former, is you have sort of like Alibaba and PDD halting these refunds with no returns, which is really I guess in many ways a practice that they have put in place to bolster the value of their own service. Let's get the take right now from Catherine Lim, our senior industry analyst from Bloomberg Intelligence, joining us out of Singapore today. Catherine, why don't we start with Baba and PDD there? And am I overthinking that? Might this be an indication that competition is becoming less fierce there, or is there a more idiosyncratic take on that?
Right. David, you know what? I never dared say that, competition is less fierce in China because it's always there. But the good news out of this development really is that it's going to make refunds in China less costly. And if we actually take a step back, that's really going to benefit the e-commerce companies and PDD in particular, because in this environment whereby they are defending and they are doing what they can to actually help support sellers on Temu, they are the most exposed, I would say, to the US tariff hikes versus Alibaba, versus Douyin, Kuaishou, even JD.com. And these cost savings is going to help PDD, as it actually goes out on the other side, helping sellers sells more outside of US in other markets. So I would say that this is a good development overall because the landscape in China is healthier. The e-commerce companies are saving monies and they can use those monies and help defend sellers in overseas markets.
That's a good point you raise, Kat, because I think you've also highlighted that this controversial refund policy was something that Pinduoduo itself started. But when it comes to overall competition, we're not just seeing it amongst the e-commerce names. I mean, particularly for food delivery, right? And we've seen JD quite recently an entrant in that space. Now it's trying to make headway. What do you think will move the needle as it tries to wrest market share from Meituan? We're seeing all these moves that both sides are taking.
Right. I hear you, Avril. And on the food delivery side of things, competition on that front is good for consumption. I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
So, it's going to fit in with what China is also trying to actually drive and support domestic consumption amidst, the macro headwinds. But of course, from a company's perspective, I would say that, we've actually see the second glitch from JD.com overnight. As, I think over lunchtime yesterday, there was a technical glitch and orders were just not being placed, seamlessly. They have jumped out. And now, in addition to waiving off delayed fees for delayed orders, they are now handing out cash coupons, to orders or customers who actually receive their orders 20 minutes later. Even to the extent of, cancelling their orders, they are out to actually retain the customers who have deflected from Meituan as well as, Ele.me. So overall, again, it will cost JD.com more. I think they are prepared to do that. Whether that's going to actually then take away some share and, Avril, I do think Meituan is still going to have a lead in the entire food delivery market in China. But, it's not going to be a big monopoly as it is. We're going to have to actually, share a little bit of that cake to the other e-commerce companies. And I think that is what, we need to be mindful about for Meituan. And there is enough in China for more companies to actually, gain and take part in this food delivery market.
Yeah, and Catherine, just as a final point there on Meituan, we understand based on this report out of Thailand that, the company managed to get, if I'm not mistaken, approval, the first company to be able to offer drone delivery nationwide. Might that, I guess, to your point, over the short term, increase that temporary moat there for Meituan?
Right. When it comes to drones and then linking it to increasing social security for riders out there, it's a little contradicting as you think about it, right? Is it essentially going to help save costs? I think the key thing from the drone and from the efficiency of the delivery is that it's going to speed things up, which is a great thing, for customer experience, except that, I think the dynamics of whereby we're trying to actually ensure that employment is still stable. In China, we're testing out drones, and maybe riders can actually make use of these drones to actually reach places that they're not able to get there within 20 minutes, right? So, there's a lot of combination in this. I do think that, from the looks of it, food delivery in China might actually offer us or the rest of the world some emerging trends that, we'll not expect and, the other markets may emulate.
Yeah, replicating some of these trends. Maybe we see drone delivery in the likes of Singapore as well. Catherine Lim, our senior industry analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence.